Coming up on City Spotlight, we're on location for this latest episode on Oakland. We'll talk all about Oakland schools with Superintendent of Oakland Schools, Landeck, about the programs offered at the high school and the impact of the current athletic co-op for Oakland and surrounding towns. Then we'll talk with Janice Hunt of the Oakland Independent about the generations of people in Oakland and the impact of Walnut Point State Park on Oakland. We are on location in Oakland, here on City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. And welcome to another edition of City Spotlight. As you can see, we're on location for this episode, this second episode on Oakland. And in this first segment, we're going to talk all about Oakland schools. We are taping here on November 2nd. In Oakland High School, and we welcome first time to the program the Superintendent of Oakland Schools, Landeck. Welcome, Lance.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for coming out here to Oakland.
Pleasure to be on and with you and to talk Oakland schools for the first time here, and look forward to learning a lot about the Oakland School District and this building and the Lake Crest Elementary School. You're a first-time guest of the program. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, please?
Well, I'm originally from Villa Grove, so not too far away. Grew up there, went to the University of Illinois. Got my first teaching job in Tuscola, so again, still in the area, taught there for 9 years. From there, I went to Atwood-Hammond School District, which was still Atwood-Hammond at the time.
Right.
Was a principal there for 6 years, and then was hired as the superintendent here at Oakland Community Unit School District in the spring of 2011 for the 11-12 school year.
For yourself, you listed a lot of towns that we've covered here on City Spotlight. So you've been able to, fortunately, been able to stay here in Central Illinois.
Yes.
Is that something that your path to where you are here in Oakland is? Did you envision that you'd be making the rounds and you end up staying here in Central Illinois?
If you would have asked me that as a teenager, I probably would have said no. I probably would have relocated, but when we moved back here in the mid-90s for my teaching job, my daughters went to Shiloh High School. We live in the Shiloh School District, and it's worked out well for us. We've been happy here.
Okay, very good. You are now in your 8th year here in Oakland, and I think the starting point for our conversation here today, let's talk about the physical layout, and for us, I think let's go back to when your first year, which was, I believe you told me, was the spring of 2011, before we started taping, you told me that, and what's some changes going on here with the physical layout of the former Oakland High School. Tell us about that first year and what was transpiring here in Oakland.
When I was hired in March of 2011 to start on July 1. Okay. So I started the 11-12 school year, but
right.
at that same meeting I was hired was the same meeting they approved the blueprint plans for a new high school.
Wow.
They were on the list to get money from the state, and they'd found out earlier that school year that the money had become available. So in that spring of 2011, they put together the plans for the building we're in now. We were in a building that's across the parking lot, the old Oakland High School that was built in 1921.
Wow.
I think a lot of people that still live here today or have moved away had a lot of memories in that old building, but it was time for a new building for our students. That one was not handicap accessible, had a lot of issues with heating and cooling, and it was time for a new school. So coming in on my first year, I kind of got thrown into the fire of a building project of my first year of a superintendency.
I'm sure you won't forget it was your first year, but also there was a lot going on there, so it must have been quite an experience. The old high school closed in 2012, is that correct?
We were in it for the 11-12 school year,
so.
And then we're not in it anymore to start the 12-13 school year. We were completely over here. So during that 11-12 school year, we were building this building. Mm-hmm. And then during the 12-13 school years when they worked on taking the old high school down.
For a smaller community, any additions or subtraction to a community the size of Oakland, we've had several smaller communities here on City Spotlight. That's a big change to have to change something
right.
like your school. How did the community react to it?
For the most part, it was very positive. A lot of people realized we needed it. I know there was a lot of emotion tied into that old building, where you went to high school or where you might have met your future spouse or whatever. So there were a lot of memories, and the community kind of took it upon themselves, and there was an effort to, there's a memorial out there, a headstone that kind of recognizes the old high school, and that's where it stood. And so like I said, it had a lot of memories, and it was emotional for some people, but I think most people understood it was time for something new to keep up to date with for our students, for them, and to give them the opportunities they need in the newer building that was more updated for today's educational process.
Several Oakland Oaks still out there that remember the good old days, right? Very good. Okay, so we've talked about how the community reacted to it, and you have this new building. So tell us about your campus. Obviously, things shifted over here, and you just attached this new building. So tell us about your campus.
Yeah, where we're actually sitting now was a playground.
Okay.
And then, like I said, when I was hired, they already had the blueprints designed to put the high school here. When it really came together, and what I like to tell people is, if you come up and you walk up to the building, it looks like they were tied together. We have Lake Crest Elementary and Oakland High School, and there's a connecting hallway, but it looks like that was the intent 50 years ago when the elementary school was built, but obviously it was built in the 60s, and this was built in 2011, so quite a bit of time in between there. But once we got both the building done and then the old high school taken down, and we blacktopped the parking lot. It used to be a gravel parking lot. They put asphalt in, blacktop that striped it. I think that really tied it together. So now if you stand back, I like to say it looks like a campus.
It does. When I got video in the spring with our first city spotlight on Oakland, I have family that lives in the area, and I've driven by the former high school and now this new setup here, and as I pulled in today, it does look like everything was started from day one. So, very good. And how have things worked out with the new addition, the new Oakland High School?
Well, it's worked out really well. Some great facilities for our students. We have a full family consumer science lab, biology lab, computer lab. So we were able to update those. And so far, it's worked out really well.
Cannot forget there's a bit of a gap now between where the buildings are. The former high school is just to our, if I get my directions right, north, and then you have the, let me get it right here, the gym from the old high school.
Well, actually, the old high school had a gym in it. The old high school had a gym in the basement, and then they built the gym next door to it, which is still standing. They built that in the 50s, and many people still refer to that as the new gym.
Right. We joked before our taping here.
Yes.
I referenced it as the new old gym.
Yes.
So
I call it the gym.
The gym.
Because it is our one gym. But if people say the new gym, we all know what they're talking about.
Right. And it gets used a lot?
Yeah, our PE classes are still in there. I think we're going to talk about our sports co-ops later.
Right.
So the co-op teams use that. I mentioned to you in kind of a pre-tape meeting, I think it's real interesting. I give our kids credit because whether it's raining or snowing or whatever out, they still have to walk
a little bit.
And it's probably about 100 yards to PE class.
Yeah.
So, there could be 6 inches of snow, it could be 50-mile-per-hour winds, it could be raining, and they go back and forth every day.
They'll have their PE shorts on or whatever, but they may have to dress for 10 below if they have to walk.
Right.
So, all right, very good. So that's the gym there. Let's talk about the people that are in the building, the students and the teachers. What's your rough enrollment here in the Oakland School District?
We're roughly right now around 265 students K-12, right around 75 to 80 students in the high school, and about 190 in the K-8 in the elementary.
Okay.
I did a little looking before you came, and back in the mid-50s, 60s, our class sizes were averaging around anywhere from, say, 35 to 40 students. So that would have given us a high school right around 140, 150 students. Wow. Yeah, so, over time, just like everywhere, enrollments have decreased.
Right.
We're a small district, we recognize that, but we continue to move forward and try to give our students the best opportunities we can, even though we are small. We have 29 teachers on staff. There's been years where only one of those teachers was high school only. Okay. The rest of what you would call the high school teachers were also teaching at the junior high level. We have one section, K through 5, so one kindergarten class, one first grade class, and so on. And then at the high school level, or junior high and high school level, we usually have say one math teacher at the junior high and one at the high school. So if you want to talk in the building itself, yes, they are one-person departments, which makes it a struggle sometimes, but on the flip side of that, we try to look at the positives. You may have the same teacher 3 or 4 years in a row for math or English, so the students get to know the teachers well, the teachers get to know the students well and learn their strengths and weaknesses and how they learn best, and I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Talk about some programs you have offered. You have, and this is in the high school level, agriculture? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
again, going back, and it's something I like to brag about, I guess I'd say, is we are small, but we still are able to offer some of the elective courses that a lot of your smaller schools don't offer, and one of them is agriculture. And we do actually offer a junior high class for agriculture as well.
Good.
It's part of our career classes, so the students can find out the junior high level whether it's something they're interested in or not, and then want to maybe take more classes at the high school level. Very active FFA group, and they go to all the competitions. It's tied to the agriculture classes. Some of the classes we offer at the agriculture are ag business, ag mechanics, landscape design. So, you know, we are, like I said, I'm very proud that we're still able to offer a full course load of agriculture classes. You think of agriculture, it's just not the planting and the harvesting. There's so much more to it. There's the science behind it, the engineering behind it, the business side of it, the science side of it. So they can learn what opportunities are out there for possible careers and then go from there.
Okay, next up, industrial technology.
Yep, a lot of our viewers might remember it as industrial arts.
Me too.
A little more technology involved, I guess I would say, in this day and age. We have an industrial technology program. They have anything from cabinet making to drafting. We've had a group build and design a tiny house.
Wow.
They do a lot on the computer software. They start out on what's called the 2D, two-dimensional program, and they design the structures. And then in the next class, once they're a little more advanced, they get on the CAD, and the CAD can help them with the three-dimensional designs. And then they build some, like I said, we did have the group build the tiny house, but we've also had build prototypes for full-size houses based off their CAD designs.
Family consumer sciences, I understand it used to be called home economics?
Family consumer science, a little more, again, in depth than what we would call the old home economics classes. They offer anything from parenting to foods and nutrition to culinary occupations. Just preparing students for life outside of high school. Again, kind of in the home setting, but also on the business side, like I said, the culinary occupations class. And again, we have, just like our agriculture and our industrial technology, we have a full slate of classes in family and consumer science as well.
And the last one that you mentioned to me prior to taping was you have Spanish also.
Yes, very, very fortunate we can still offer Spanish. A lot of small schools have really struggling to offer foreign languages. The teachers just aren't coming out of universities to offer or to teach foreign languages. We did last year for the 17-18 school year have to offer it on an online basis. We were unable to find a teacher. We were real fortunate to find a company that offers it. Our students actually wore the headsets and the microphones and were face-to-face with a teacher via the computer 3 days a week. I think the teacher for one of our classes, I think the Spanish one, was actually in Mississippi. And our students sat here in Oakland, Illinois, and 3 days a week communicate with that teacher. And then the other two, they were doing their homework. But this year we were able to find a Spanish instructor again and offer Spanish 1 through 4.
Fantastic. Opportunities for students.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the co-op. As folks may know, Oakland has had a variety of co-ops through the years. What is the current co-op for athletics that Oakland is a part of?
Well, currently it involves Oakland schools, obviously, Kansas School District, and the Hume-Shiloh School District.
All right, very good. And that is, and having done the episodes with Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond School, you're tying in students and community from a variety of towns. And we talked before taping here the dynamics of having different communities, kids, opportunities to do things with other kids from other towns. Talk about those opportunities.
Well, one thing I like to point out when you mentioned Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond is those students that go to Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond High School are all under one roof all day long, whereas our students are at Oakland High School, Kansas High School, and Shiloh High School during the day, and then they come together, be it in any of those three communities, for practice. Over the last 4 or 5 years we've had the co-op, I've really seen the students develop some friendships and bonds that they may not have otherwise. I mean, we've been with Kansas, Oakland Schools has, since back in the 90s, but just in the last 4 or 5 years we've brought Shiloh on as well. And like at our homecoming dance, their teachers come and help chaperone from both schools. Their students come over for our homecoming dance. We go to their homecoming dances. They come over for pep rallies. We go there for pep rallies. So it's really seamless. It's just, we don't think of it as the three different districts when we're together. We're one team, the co-op. I'd mentioned to you, and I may get the numbers wrong, so I apologize to our booster club here if I do,
right.
but
Right.
they sell a shirt that mentions, it says something like 13 towns, 13 towns, 3 schools, 1 team. And that really kind of sums up the co-op, because we are a lot of very, very small towns that come together for 3 schools, and then the 3 schools come together. And it's, to this point, it's been a success.
What we've just talked about here, opportunities, and one thing that you wanted to talk about, we were talking about the class size, the teachers, building relationships.
Right, and that's something we talk about. We're real fortunate here at Oakland Schools. Our school board allows us to have what's called collaboration days. Every Wednesday during the school year, students dismiss at 2:15, so teachers can get together and collaborate for an hour, because only having one English teacher, one math teacher, it's hard for them to get together throughout the day to talk with each other and share ideas. So every Wednesday we do for an hour, and one thing we've really talked about in the last couple of years is, okay, we know we're a small school. Let's not use that against us or as an excuse. How can we use it as an advantage to be better for our students? And one thing we really push is building relationships with our students. We are small. Let's use that to our advantage and build relationships with our students. You know, there's a saying out there, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. And that's true. You think about back when you were in school, or any of the viewers that were back in school, the one teacher that you really wanted to do well for is probably because you had a good relationship with them.
Right.
And that's what we really kind of try to hang our hat on here. And if a child's ever in time of need or is struggling with something, we want them to have at least one adult in the building that they can come to and speak frankly with and open up to if they need to.
We've learned a lot about Oakland schools here today with you, Lance, where they've been and where you guys are now. And my final question for you is, in your 7+ years here in Oakland, what do you enjoy most about working in the schools here in Oakland?
I think it goes with the small schools a little bit, in the small community. We like to refer to our staff as family. And it's real interesting. We hired a new teacher this year, and kind of on the spot, we called her into the board meeting to meet the board. And I think she thought she was going to be kind of grilled with questions, but they just asked her, is there anything you'd like to say? And she says, you know, I haven't taught a day here, but the day I came in for my interview, I was sitting in the office waiting for the interview, and you could just tell the sense of family. And I had to promise the board I didn't prompt her to say that or pay her to say it or anything, but I think that's what we're most proud of here, is that we, you know, really are here for our students. And, you know, there may be some times when a parent out in the community or a child may not think that's the case. You know, there's going to be disagreements at times, but we can sit down, work it out, and figure out, you know, what's best, and not just for one student or a small group of students, but our students as a whole. And if we can do better, let's figure out how we can do better, because that's why we're here, is to serve our students and prepare them for life after school.
Thank you very much, Lance. Lance Landeck, Superintendent of Oakland Schools. We appreciate your time here on City Spotlight.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Look forward to having you on again in the near future. Coming up next here on City Spotlight, we'll leave Oakland High School and head over to downtown Oakland and talk with Janice Hunt of the Oakland Independent. But first, let's take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in Oakland. And we're back here on City Spotlight, this on-location episode on Oakland. As you can see, we've left the Oakland High School and the Oakland schools for this second segment. We're at the Oakland Independent, and we're going to talk in this segment with Janice Hunt. She's the owner and publisher of the Oakland Independent. Welcome to the program, Janice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Glad to be over here in the downtown area of Oakland, and look forward to hearing your comments. You're a native of Oakland. We're going to talk about a variety of things here, and you're a first-time guest to the program. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a longtime resident of Oakland. I run the Oakland newspaper here, and I've done that for 5 years. I went to Oakland High School, Eastern Illinois University, and worked in the Charleston and Mattoon papers. Worked at EIU for 8.5 years in public relations, and now I'm doing this, which is my dream job.
Awesome, and we are going to certainly touch upon that at the end of our interview here today. We were just over talking Oakland schools with Superintendent Lance Landeck, and we learned a lot about where Oakland schools have been and where they are now. And Janice, I want to get one comment from you, because you're a native of Oakland, and you went to the old Oakland High School, and the importance of the schools here in Oakland to this smaller community.
Well, I think the schools are kind of a binding thread throughout the generations. When the old school was torn down in 2012, we had a big reunion. and people came from several different states. And it's something where you have a connection with people, even if you've never met them. You've maybe heard their name, or it's just a small enough community that the school is just a binding thread. And so, and that continues today. It's the one thing generations of us have in common here.
One thing you told me before we started taping this interview was about the people of Oakland, and that it's been generations of people that have been a part of this community, and even still today. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, there are many people here whose connections to the community go back generations, and I'm one of those. Mm-hmm. My great grandfather was a postmaster here, for example, and it's a farming community, so a lot of times in those kind of communities, it's people kind of stick around, and I think people have a deeper connection to the community when you know that people have been, your history is here, right. And so I think that's part of the reason people rally around things here in the community, maybe more than in any smaller town that happens. But it's just neat seeing that there's such a connection with people going years back with their families. So
very good, thank you for that. And let's talk about some amenities, things that are here in Oakland that people may come for. And I think one thing you wanted to talk a little bit about was the Rutherford House.
The Rutherford House is part of the Landmarks organization. They have several different historic sites, and the Rutherford House is kind of the focal point of it. He was a friend of Abraham Lincoln's, and he tried to employ Abraham Lincoln to represent him to help these slaves get freed, and Abraham Lincoln was representing the slave owner at that point. So it's a very historic case. Anyway, it's a very cool thing for our town to have here, and people still rally around it. And Landmarks takes care of that, and Landmarks was recently down to in financial trouble. Right. And a couple of years ago, they started this calendar that we run in the newspaper where people can sponsor the organization for $25 a day. And it's called Dr. Rutherford's Appointment Calendar. And they've been able to cover all their operating expenses through this. People have been happy to donate, and it's been a really neat thing to see people pitching in to help keep that around.
All right, very good. We talked toward the end of Mayor Michaels and George Edwards in the spring about some of these topics, so I'm going to bypass talking about the golf course and the swimming pool. They're right across the street from each other. Mm-hmm. One thing I wasn't able to touch on, we ran out of time, was you have a state park just located a couple minutes north of Oakland, Walnut Point. Can you tell us about what it's like to have a state park near Oakland? Oh,
we're so blessed to have that here. You can just drive a couple minutes out, and it's like you're in a different world, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful year-round. Fall, it's when the leaves are changing, it's absolutely amazing. And people come from all around to camp there. Great campsites. It's very well kept, and there's an awesome restaurant out there. And so if you haven't been there, you should go check it out. It's called Williams Cafe, and it's just amazing for a small town to have that right here, because people will travel miles away to go to places, and a lot of people haven't even heard of Walnut Point. I think the word's kind of getting out a little more now, and it's just a really great thing for our community.
Located just a couple minutes north of Oakland. Very good. And lastly, I want to talk about what you do, your career. You work in the newspaper business. You're the owner and publisher, one-person newspaper lady of the Oakland Independent. Tell us, our audience, briefly how you got involved with newspapers.
Well, actually, when I was 5 or 6 years old, I had a little blue plastic typewriter, and I typed out Family News. And then I sold it for a dime. And then I got carbon copies, and I could make 2 dimes if I made 2 copies. So I just did Family News. I've always been interested in newspapers. Mm-hmm. So I read them my whole life. Most kids don't read newspapers. I was reading them. And so I went to EIU, had a great journalism program, made sure I took one of my first classes in journalism with Bill Lair, who was the editor at the Journal-Gazette Times-Courier. And he called me the next semester. I became an intern there, which was my perfect plan coming true. I couldn't believe it, and stayed on there after graduation. And I was there almost 10 years, and then I went to Eastern for public relations, worked there. Right. And then this opportunity kind of came up, and it just all fell into place. Right. And I always wanted to run my hometown paper, and it came into being, and it's all fallen into place. And the people here, a lot of small towns don't have a newspaper that can cover their city council, school boards, and just any fun stuff that comes along. And people really appreciate having that opportunity to have that, and I really love doing it.
And you put out a paper every week?
Every week, yes. And we say I'm a one-woman show, but it's a community effort. I mean, people send me things, and people are invested in it, and it's so cool to see. And of course, my mom is my proofreader, and she does my labeling on Wednesdays on mailing day, which is crazy. And I have two guys who are super about helping me out with sports coverage because I couldn't do it all. There's so much going on. So in a sense, I'm a one-person show, but in a sense, it's a community-wide effort. So
some video there of you in action there. And my final question for you, Janice, and I appreciate your time here on City Spotlight, your perspective on your hometown, whether it be working in your hometown in the paper or just being from Oakland. What do you enjoy most about this community?
The people. We're kind of a big family. And if something needs done, we roll our sleeves up and get it done. If somebody has a problem, we rush in to help. And people are that's what keeps a town like this going is the people. So that's definitely my favorite part.
We've learned a lot here about Oakland in this second City Spotlight episode on Oakland schools, and with the native of Oakland, Janice Hunt here with the Oakland Independent. Janice Hunt with the Oakland Independent. We appreciate your time here on City Spotlight.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And that'll do it for this latest City Spotlight episode on Oakland. We've been on location here, and we thank you for watching. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.